Welcome back to Chattery Included, where today we are going to ignore any background noise we are hearing. This is take 2, recording the entire audio for a 10-minute video, and we are going to be doing a little Draw This Again challenge. This piece is something that is actually pretty special to me. When I got my first graphics tablet, I wasn't very good with it. It was a hand-me-down from Chen because she had gotten a new one and didn't need the old one anymore, so she gave it to me. Prior to that, I'd only used it once or twice, and I drew very simplistic Adventure Time style characters on it. So after receiving it, I decided I needed to sit down and learn some of the tools and capabilities of digital drawing and painting. Up until this point, any artsy junk I had created had been traditional, like pen, paper, markers, mixed media, lots of paint. One day in 2016, I posted on Facebook that I was going to be doing some digital painting practice. Just some little doodles, nothing large, nothing amazing. And if anyone wanted something, to just comment. And to my knowledge, 3 people did comment. They didn't comment what they wanted, they just said something. So it gave me complete freedom to do whatever I wanted. And that is a dangerous thing because I will do the same thing 8 times, which we will find out in this video. The first thing I drew that day, I actually redid last year for Mermaid. It is a bluish-greenish, kind of mint sea foam mermaid in front of a cave. The second thing I think is still kind of charming in its own way, so I haven't done anything with it, but it did take like 3 hours that day, given the skill level I was at. So it kind of defeated the purpose of being a doodle, but I do think it helped me explore a lot of the drawing program I was using, which was Fire Alpaca at the time. The third and final thing I drew that day was actually for my friend Ruby, and I just kind of went with whatever I was feeling. So this piece was born. It wasn't very good, but given that it was the most complex thing I had done at that time on a tablet, I was fairly pleased with it. The colors were fun, and for some reason the sweater was see-through, giving it this weird ghosty vibe in my head. I actually kind of loved it. And then I decided I wanted to do a progress check a couple of years later. So in 2019, I decided to draw it again. I did improve in some ways. The facial proportions were much better and the hair made more sense. The sweater was no longer transparent because why would just a sweater be ghostly and not an entire person? The background silhouettes were cleaner, more crisp. There was improvement. Unfortunately, I didn't actually like how that one turned out. So I looked at some art guides and tutorials, a few videos about lighting, I grabbed a reference for braids, and I took another crack at it the following day. Consistency? We ain't know her at that time. To be a day apart, they had completely different faces, but the hair reads even more braid, and the makeup didn't look as muddy. It actually vaguely gave me Disney vibes, so I was kind of pleased with it. Fast forward a year and my Facebook memories come through and I see the memory from where I had redone it. So I decided, you know what, I probably need another progress check. So I wanted to shift the angle a little in the third one and zoom out a bit, focus more on the background, and I tried very hard not to look at the first 2 redos I had done and only look at the original piece. The outline was back to being in purple, her eye makeup became more intentional, and I felt like I was finally getting the eye shape right, because you know when you turn your head you get different kind of views and shapes for the eye. I felt like I was finally getting that down. The lighting and shading were more pronounced, giving clear, you've improved signs, so that was really exciting. The hairstyle got a bit of a change, but I still liked it. I was actually really proud of this one. It didn't turn out too bad for not having a reference and for forgetting to put the real eyebrows on her, not just the placeholder sketchy eyebrows. But I was real pleased with it. And I stayed pleased with it until a friend unsolicited critiqued it and said, arms don't do that, right? And then I got a little resentful and kind of locked it away. And after that, it took a couple years for me to be able to really look at it and love it and draw it again. I had initially intended for it to be a video last year, but I was working on testing Krita to see if it would let me record in the program without having to download something to screen record, and at the time the answer was no. I didn't have a driver installed to export the file. I don't know if I even actually hit record. It just didn't work. So I ended up downloading OBS, but that was after I had finished it last year. That aside, I did redraw it again in early 2023 after getting off of a big Monster High kick. The noticeable improvements for this one that I saw were mostly in the hair, the pose, and the background. The hair was more than just flat color, more like the original, but done like a load better. Monster High in the original 2D style has very detailed hair, and I'd just spent a couple weeks drawing Monster High OCs with a friend, so that hair improved significantly, mostly because of that practice. The background gained more depth, as if the focus is sitting more in the city as opposed to miles away with the cityscape clinging to the horizon. The sky itself gained more detail with the moon being visible in the background instead of an illusion of sunset being presented. I really liked this one, and it actually became my computer background. Like, it still is my computer background as of right now. But after a year of actively doing art, I wanted another progress check. And what better way than to draw this again? So I booted up Krita and got to work. I wanted to focus on the background a little more, given my New Year's resolution. So after doing the pose sketch, I started on the background instead of waiting till the end for it. I loved the background in the 2023 version, but it felt murky and almost like a lot of the details got lost, so I really wanted to correct that this year. After doing a lot of work on creating windows and lights and filter layers, I found myself having the same issues as I did in 2023's version, so ultimately in the back two layers I removed them to keep some of the crisp silhouettes and tonal differences, but I still added a little more detail to the front windows as best as I could. I wanted the city to feel a little more lived in and a little less empty. So I drew some quiet nightlife in the windows for the third layer of background buildings. The face feels a little more consistent, to me at least. Like, looking between this one and last year's, it looks more like one of those same pictures 10 years apart thing. Like the original, she was always meant to be a grown woman, but in two of the redraws, she read very teenager to me. But now she feels like she's in her 20s somewhere, you know? It feels kind of like she grew up with me, matured with my style, if you will. A few things I noticed that I'm not happy about with this upon the end result. I had a lot of problems with the pose. For it being the first time I actively used a pose reference, the pose in 2023 still felt more natural and loose, and this one feels stiff and a little wrong. Like, her shoulder feels disconnected from the rest of her body, and on top of that, I had a hard time getting the arm that's bent to look bent correctly. And it just kind of meh. The line art of the sweater is thicker than the line art of the face, and it draws the eyes down, so I'm not super happy I did that, because it actually highlights the arm area that I was just complaining about and how wrong it looks. I just didn't know how to fix it when I got to the end. So I guess I'm just gonna have to do better on that next time. The last thing I'm unhappy about with this piece is purely a me problem. It's just something that I'm nitpicking, but I hate that I made her nose more curved. I've always tried to make her nose straight with less severe slope and a smaller, more round, less sharp tip, but in this one, I guess she just got an impromptu nose job. All that aside, I do think it turned out alright. I definitely can see the improvement in a side-by-side comparison. But as I was finishing it, I was so bothered about how much I didn't like it. I hadn't experienced a flat-out dislike for it since the first redraw of 2019. But after seeing it in line with the rest of them, seeing the marked improvement of just 1 year, I think I do kind of like it in its own special way. So that's the story of a piece Ruby has since named Cosmic Wisdom. I don't know why that's what she named it, but I'm not going to complain because I don't usually name my pieces anything. So having a name for it is fun. This little doodle became something that was just so much bigger to me, and I hope I get to redraw it again in the future. But for now, what do you think? Which version has been your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out the rest of the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining me on another artsy adventure, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Bye-bye!